Hi, I'm speaking to Liam today, who's one of our past GED students, and he's here just to share a little bit about his journey leading up to the GED and to tell us about what he's achieved since doing it. And I think it's going to be an inspirational story. So let's just start at the beginning, Liam. Tell us a little bit about your schooling, if you went to school or if you're homeschooled, and what led up to you choosing the GED.
First of all, thank you very much, Shirley. Early education background before the GED, I started in Cornwall Hill College initially, stayed there for about 7 years. I had a lot of issues with learning. I was diagnosed with ADHD and stuff like that, so it really quickly became a bit difficult for me to sit in class for hours on end and learn and really stick to everything. So I was on concerts and everything, and my mom actually wasn't too happy about that. So from there, I was removed from the private school environment, the formal school environment, and we actually ended up going to another Montessori kind of establishment for about 2, 3 years. That was a little bit further on the other side of the fence. So it was a little bit more informal, less structured. So it became this battle to kind of find what you would need to get good qualifications so that you could actually uh, qualify. Goodness gracious, there's a cat
Hello,
coming.
Kat.
So excuse me. It became this kind of battle to find a decent system that you could get a school qualification for that would allow for opportunities later in life. And actually, my mom stumbled across the GD, I think, on Facebook, your pages and everything. I think I was about 17 years old when we first looked at it. I completed the GD then, sat for many nights studying, putting in work, everything like that. And then, yeah, from that point onward, I finished the GED and then started looking at applying to universities and stuff, which quickly became a little bit tricky because the GED, obviously, because it's an American qualification, it's not as easy to get into local universities. Then what we actually ended up doing was looking at universities of the people. So I'm not sure if that answers that question very nicely.
That does. The University of the People, just to fill people in, is an online accredited American university, and they accept students readily with a GED qualification. What did you study there? What made you choose that option? Tell us about your university years.
First and foremost, I think what made us choose, or made me choose the University of the People, was the acceptance of the GED right off the bat. Coming into it is very structured. So you don't have to kind of fight through any systems to get more courses, more work. The whole reason we chose it was because of that kind of integration with the GED, because it's American as well. And then going forward, I looked at a lot of business. My father's quite into business, accounting, that kind of stuff. So I initially had a look at that. But yeah, numbers and accounting bored me to death, unfortunately. So I actually ended up going towards health sciences. I was very interested in medicine growing up, a little bit of a morbid curiosity with blood and bleeding and bones and anatomy and everything.
Okay.
So I initially landed on health sciences, applied, and then when I got accepted for it, and then started going through the coursework and everything, and they eased me in with a bit of psychology and everything. And then as we go through the courses, it becomes structured towards actual like health sciences, more medical topics. So I went through psychology, then it was anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, that kind of stuff towards the end. What's nice about it as well was the electives that they offered on the side that you needed kind of to build credits were things like art history. And I did programming at some point, which was, I think, at the time, looking back at it, was quite strange. Health sciences and art history, it doesn't sound like it should be in the same vein, but they did a very good job of, I think, exposing me to a lot of different areas to kind of also broaden my knowledge. So that university experience was very good. It's all online. And I finished it 2 years ago.
Was that your 3-year degree? Because I know you did a fourth year, an honors year as well, and you
Yes.
were one of their top students, Magna Cum Laude, and
I got
okay,
a 98% average. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's Magna Cum
yeah.
Laude, but
Did you work after that? I know you've been studying since then. Did you work in between or while you were studying further? Tell us what happened after your degree.
during the degree, I was working a bit of some odd jobs here and there, house sitting,
Yeah.
and I eventually got a job at a place called Quench. It was essentially the Willie's Dash before Willie's Dash was a thing. Then after that, I'd done my degree and everything. I actually ended up going to work at the same place where my dad was working. He actually managed to get me into a debtor's assistant position, so an accounting role where I'd reconcile statements and stuff on Zero. And I'd never done accounting up until this point, so I had to learn on my feet. But it was a very good experience for me as well because I found it to be quite interesting in understanding how the business side of everything works, and just also I think for the first time working with actual people in the professional environment. and interacting
Yes.
with people like that. So growing your interpersonal skills as well. It was very good exposure for me for professional, like first professional job kind of. And then from there, I actually went from that company to another company that was in the same building. I ended up going for like a brief interview with the guy there for a health monitoring software that they were trying to bring over from the UK. My degree and everything kind of lined up a bit better with that. So it drove me also a bit more into the administration business side of everything. I worked there for probably about 2 years. It became a bit of an 8 to 5 job where you sit down, open your laptop, and I got a little bit bored of that quite quickly. So I started looking out for other jobs and everything like that. Applying where you can, going on LinkedIn every time, growing my LinkedIn profile, trying my best to at least. And then I actually happened upon a Stryker position for a MAKO product specialist. So we were actually initially told by one of our family friends that worked for Stryker, works for Stryker now, that the position would be opening. So I kept my eyes peeled, came across it on LinkedIn and applied. 4 interviews later, and the rest is history.
Okay, so you're working for them, and then what led you to study again? Because you've now done an MBA and this robotics course you recently completed. Tell us about that.
Throughout the term when I was with the medical aid administration company, I decided that I'd like to kind of dip into business a little bit more to get an MBA. The reason being that, again, I think if you have an MBA, if you work yourself into a corporate position, it's much easier to go for managerial positions then, because you have then business experience on paper. By also building up physical experience, which is good, but then you have the credentials to kind of back it up. The idea came from university, the people that offered the course as well. So everything done and studied through university, the people. I was running this course. I was doing this course while working full time, so it was a bit hair raising at times. Same course kind of structure and everything, but now it's business. It was a massive shift for me, I think, mentally, because I had to now focus on things that I wasn't necessarily specifically interested in. And again, the more I worked through it, the more it was opening up to leadership tactics, analysis, SWOT analyses, global marketing. It was a whole bunch of stuff that I'd never really considered before that now I'm getting direct exposure to. So I was doing this, and then I moved over to Stryker. I was sent to Amsterdam for the robotics course while doing this degree, fortunately or unfortunately. So it was a lot of studying. During this period as well, when I got to Stryker for my role as an MPS, it stands for MAKO product specialist. So MAKO is the robotic system that we use for hip, knee, and partial knee arthroplasties. So that means it's a guided system essentially. So me as an operator of this, when I work with a surgeon, I have to go on training to become certified for these applications. So the first knee training, they sent me to Amsterdam. That was for the certification course. It was about 2 weeks long. Past that, came back. Then in May, they sent me to Turkey for the hip course, and then the partial course for the partial knee replacement. They ended up doing online. So I passed all of that. I think my last exam was in July for that. I finished my MBA in August, and now I'm just working towards everything.
And what's your favorite part of it? Because you've done quite a diverse bit of, the health science, the MBA, and now the robotic stuff. It obviously all helps in different ways, but what do you prefer?
To be honest with you, I prefer the absolute clinical side of things, to stand in a theater and to assist doctors and operate the machine and everything, because it's a very important role whereby I'm manipulating or helping to manipulate an implant and giving feedback to a doctor, to an orthopedic surgeon regarding our ranges, what we can do, what we can't do, and then helping them to make an informed decision. So that kind of thing I love, because it's almost paramedicine with a nice kind of corporate background where you're backed by a company as well. It's not necessarily that you're just a lone doctor working by himself or working with a team of people in a hospital. So I love the clinical side of it. The admin is unfortunately a part of it, but it's just a little bit boring, but it has to get done on the invoices and stock counts and everything like that. I found that with the MBA and everything, applying that kind of just all the content and things that I've gone through is, how could we maybe go forward? Like, how could you regulate your stock better? How could you process invoices better? What processes could you set up? How would you speak to people? How do you interact with people to make them understand that you need X, Y, or Z from an invoice? It's all a big, like you said, it's a very broad range of things, but the clinical side of it is really what makes me tick. The business side of it, obviously, I think I haven't been in the industry long enough yet for it to really come through, for it to really have helped me.
So you've come from quite an alternative pathway, and you on a sort of the cutting edge of new technology and things like that. If you look back, how do you think that educational pathway kind of set you up nicely for what you're doing now? Because clearly you've done really well. So something there must have worked for you.
The biggest thing for me was always trying to understand that you could do it. You do one course, you go to the next course, and then the next course becomes the next course. When you're standing in front of something and it's from the very beginning, it's unbelievably daunting because it's an uphill climb. But the more you start learning, the more you start realizing you're actually able to learn, or that you are actually interested in certain topics and things. I think the health sciences side of it, I'm very interested. I think the anatomy and everything prepared me because when I went into this, it's very anatomy heavy. You have to know a lot about the hip joint, the knee joint, surrounding arteries, nerves, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But understanding a little bit more, I mean, from the business side as well is always good. The studies and stuff help you to kind of understand what down the line affects the patient, how that affects the business, and then the whole bigger picture. But I think psychologically, it was more I am able to do it. I mean, I've done it. I know I'm good at anatomy. I know I'm good at physiology, biochemistry,
Yeah.
and even the areas where I'm not necessarily sure of, I can learn because it's what I've been doing. The studies that prepared me more for the being able to sit down and learn more than anything else.
Excellent. Well, it sure sounds like you've, worked your way into a good niche where you are. And yeah, it sounds like it's really making a difference in people's lives. And you obviously enjoy that side of the medical industry where it is serving people. So well done to you. And yeah, what a great testimony to inspire other people that it's this lifelong learning pathway, I suppose, which you are showing the way can lead to good things. What's one last thing you would say to people who watch this?
My biggest thing going forward and what I want everybody to know is just I was unsure with the GED for a long period of time. I was lying awake, standing in the shower. I didn't know where I was going, what direction I was going to end up in. Get doomsday prophets that'll tell you, you can't do this, you can't go study there. You can do exactly what you want, but you have to look for those opportunities. And it's not impossible. And I really, really want other people who are pursuing an education like this to know that it's not impossible. Continue to pursue these opportunities and eventually something happens. So I really just want other people, I want to convey a message that the GED doesn't confine you to only doing lower level stuff. Unfortunately, I think you have to put in a little bit more effort, but if you do, it will pay dividends in the end.
Yeah.
It's all about, I think, giving that 102% rather than just kind of sitting back and letting a system carry you. I think anybody who's out there who's trying to do the GED, who's not sure about doing it, please do it. But you have to work towards it. Just work. If you're passionate about something and you really, really want to pursue it, it will come your way.
Great words of advice. Thanks so much for sharing, Liam.